Today's show is sponsored by the ABV Network Merchandise Shop. Check out our large assortment of logo merch and our lifestyle collection as well. Just head over to abvnetwork.com and click on shop. We are also sponsored by The Bar to Go. The Bar to Go offers a fully customizable carrying case that allows you to take your favorite distilled spirits or cocktail ingredients with you. Whether you're looking for yourself, a customized gift, or logo items for your business or event, The Bar to Go can help. Check them out at thebar2go.com. Use the number 2 when you type out The Bar to Go. Did you know Neely Family Distillery now ships its popular distilled spirits directly to you? To order, simply call 859-394-3258. Tell them the ABV Network sent you. Finally, we are sponsored by the upcoming ABV Barrel Shop, a new liquor store experience coming to St. Louis, Missouri. The ABV Barrel Shop will serve as home to the ABV Network and will be owned and operated by Steve Akeley, Jim Fosnot, and Scott Creighton, a.k.a. the Barrel Buddies. To learn more about the investment opportunities in this new venture, listen to the ad at the end of this podcast. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm hosting today's show as we are still on vacation. We've got Barry Brinegar and Colin Blake, a couple of good friends from the world of bourbon. Barry, of course, owns RD1 Spirits. They are famous for their William Tarr brand, and then Colin Blake of Moonshine University. So these are a couple of real movers and shakers in the bourbon business. I think you're going to enjoy the show with them. They're always fun to talk to.
Let's drink!
All right, well, our first guest turned a love for bourbon into a hobby of learning everything he could about it, and then that evolved into him being a co-founder of William Tarr Distillery. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Barry Brinegar. Hey, Barry, how you doing, buddy?
Hey there. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be
here. I love that. So, Barry, you know, I was checking things out, getting ready for this interview, and there's something I didn't realize about you. I just know you know, what you've done in the world of bourbon and stuff like that, and that's kind of the stuff we've focused our talks on. But your bio on William Tarr website says that you worked as a field medic and RN in the 1st Marine Division. So tell us a little bit about your role and what you did.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Very proud to have served in the United States Navy. It was in 1980. I joined as a hospital corpsman and was doc. So essentially, I was a field medical technician. And when I left after 4 years, I came back to Kentucky and got my RN and worked in the University of Kentucky and other local hospitals. But I worked in the operating room, interestingly enough, and I found I enjoyed talking to people better and working and doing business. So I left the field of nursing, got a job for an implantable device company, Medtronic, and sold implantable devices, and then turned that into I had a compounding pharmacy formulation distribution up here in Kentucky, and just really enjoyed working with business owners and people that needed help, needed treatments for medical conditions and issues. And just met some of the local people in Lexington and kind of parlayed, I'll tell more of that story later, but kind of parlayed that into working with William Tarr and RD1 Spirits.
Okay. Did you ever move for Medtronic, like a corporate move?
I did. I actually moved down to Louisiana.
Yes.
and oh my gosh, I love on the North Shore, Lake Pontchartrain. The people there are just salt of the earth, and the food, you can't imagine the seafood that we would eat. It was a wonderful move for me, and loved that experience.
That's good. That's good. The reason why I asked that's a crazy question to ask, but I was in the moving business, and Medtronic was one of the big accounts that I worked with. They worked with a company called Barrett out of Minnesota, and I would make a lot of calls on Medtronic with those guys and service that company for years. And so just glad to hear the move went good. So hopefully you didn't have any damage. I can't help you if you did. There
was that claim that never went through, but.
So it was an interesting gig for sure. So interesting stuff. And I did that in 20 years or so. So tell us a little bit about this evolution. So you're a bourbon drinker first and foremost. That's where we all start, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then if we really get into it, we kind of become the student of it. We start reading books, or these days it's podcasts and blogs and all that kind of stuff. But you take it then even the next step, and it's something I think we all think about. We all think about, hey, I'd like to start a brand at some point, but you've actually done it. So tell us a little bit about this evolution.
Well, I think growing up in Kentucky, you either have a great love and appreciation for America's native spirit, bourbon. And so either you appreciate the flavor and the whole experience, or you're proud to be in the state because it brings $8.6 million in bourbon tourism to the state. And so I think that grew up drinking a lot of bourbon, and then I joined the Lexington Bourbon Society. I just followed this group around. I was so enamored with the educational component that they offered, and loved it so much that I came on the board and served in a board capacity in marketing, and kind of helped them with communication, and fell in love with the industry. I got to meet master distillers. Here I'm rubbing elbows with Jimmy Russell, one of my first events, and I mean, oh my gosh, I'm like a kid at a rock concert, and just a superstar.
Yeah.
A oral historian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just really enjoyed the opportunity there, but it kind of spurred my interest to take this a little bit further, and actually started working in the the 3-tier system of manufacturer, distributor, and the point of sale. I was going to get into the distribution side of the business, but that didn't quite work out because the barriers to entry there are pretty steep.
Yeah. So tell us about the first time you heard of William Tarr, the person and the distillery, and when did that then become on your radar as something? Maybe this is how we'll go with it for our branding.
Well, in Lexington, we've got a lot of folks that really love the industry. Either you're an executive bourbon steward, you're providing tasting experiences, or we're all getting together to share pour, and so I mean, we knew the history, but it wasn't until I started meeting local business people. And if you understand the history of the Ashland Distillery, there is a building that's still standing that's relevant to the brand. It was Bonded Warehouse number 1, and it was the Manchester Music Hall. So that still stands today. It's a music venue. And if you go into that building, you can see just, the history from the late 1870s that, as that was rebuilt after a distillery fire.
Gotcha. So take us through this timeline. I mean, from when is like earliest discussions, probably sitting around over a bourbon. That's in my mind how all this starts, and all the way from starting to file paperwork and stuff like that to getting to the point where we're at today.
Well, I will say this, that I really felt that there was a supernatural presence that was willing this brand to come back to market, because we started talking about this in mid 2019. And so at that point, I wasn't really interested in starting a distillery, because I was working with attorneys and other partners to do a distribution model. So I met a group of people, and they were introduced. I introduced them to a bourbon consultant, and they knew each other because we're a small community down here. Lexington's a big small town, and so they got started with the model, and things really didn't move forward. And I wasn't able to move forward, as I said, with the distributorship. And so I came back to the table and said, "Hey, I'm interested. If there's an opportunity, if there's a role, would love to come back together." And so we formed the company in December of 2019, and we got a business plan together. The first person that we pitched was the University of Kentucky football coach Mark Stoops. And if you know Coach, you know that he loves bourbon. He is a huge bourbon fan, and loves wine too. He's a big red wine guy. And he heard the story. He said, "I love this story," but we had some 12-year that we had bought. So we're a non-distiller producer. So we bought several 12-year barrels. And when he drank that, he was like, I'm in. I love the story, but this is such great bourbon. So what I tell people now is be careful when you sample our 12 year, because it convinced Coach Stoops to buy the company. It might make you buy something too. So he was the first person that we pitched to, and the second person that we pitched to was a company called Key Investment Solutions with Mike Tedderton and Marcia Couch. If you know them from Lexington, Kentucky, they owned Creative Lodging Solutions, and they actually booked hotel rooms for corporate clients. And so they had sold that company. Mike is a serial entrepreneur and has started 27 businesses. So what that allowed us to do is, we got the investment to start the company. But in order for us to go to that next level, we really needed someone to come in, take over the company, because it's expensive. When when you're thinking of putting together a distillery, I think we all kind of grossly underestimate the cost in putting together a company like that. Everything required marketing, sales, and enough inventory to keep those shelves full and get shelf turns. So it really required the expertise of Key Investments to come in and take over the company. So they're majority owners along with Mark Stoops. So they're both majority owners.
Gotcha. And how long does this take, Barry? Are we talking years and years or a couple of years? What was your timeline there?
So we incorporated in January of 2020, and then
not too bad.
COVID hit. COVID hit in February, and so we're needing to get a DSP. We're needing to buy a still. We need to have a liquid strategy. We need to get a design, a bottle. And so we were fortunate to use Steve Amato with McBrayer Law. If you know him, he's the Kentucky Distillers Association's legal counsel.
I know him.
We got connected with Steve, and then he introduced us to some bourbon consultants. If you go to Moonshine University, you actually talk to these consultants that can either help you if you've got an idea, a strategy, and they'll pretty much tell you this is what it's going to take, and either I wouldn't do this if I were you, or you're going to do it. You're going to take a few lumps on the chin. But we were fortunate to get those bourbon consultants that got us then our liquid strategy to the point when we came to market, and we had a product on the shelf in October. So imagine that timeline from January to October. We got a design of a bottle. We got liquid. We were able to. I'm fortunate to be able to be with RNDC Republic Distribution. They're the second largest distributor in the country, and they don't pick up craft brands. That's not a part of their portfolio. But because of the relationship that we had with Mark Stoops and with that distributor, we were able to get picked up and launched then in October of 2020.
Very cool. So you're talking about a brand that's been gone 100 years now, and that's a long time, but it's not ancient history. I mean, so as you start getting into this and there's press releases going out and stuff like that, are there people, because again, Lexington, a little big town, are there people coming out of the woodwork saying I was, a descendant, or I'm a family member, or you could even get, hey, my grandfather worked there or something like that. Are you getting those sorts of calls and contacts?
Yeah, you can't imagine how many of the Tarrs there are, both around central Kentucky, this region. They actually migrated to Illinois. There's folks still living in the Northeast, out west. And so we did get contacted, and it's so amazing every time that someone reaches out that, part of that lineage. To understand the brand, registered distillery number 1 was the Ashland Distillery, and that was established in 1865. It was, it was named Ashland, so there was a connection to Henry Clay, to the Ashland estate, and then William Tarr. There, we probably got introduced to maybe 7, 8, 9 different Tarrs at different households. One of those actually had a picture of William Tarr in their garage that they pulled out, and it's so incredible to see the actual image, because I don't know if you can see William Tarr here. That was just a depiction, right? That's right.
Yeah.
So we just kind of formulated that based on some of the Tarrs that we knew on social media. We reached out and said, hey, do you mind if we use your likeness? And they were fine with that. But then when this family let me know that, it was incredible because it looked just like what you would imagine someone in the 1860s that would have a beard, no mustache, similar to Abraham Lincoln during that time. That was kind of the style when you had, most folks had a large beard and had a shaven area on their upper lip, no mustache. So we got connected with descendants of Henry Clay when opening the brand, William Tarr, and then Richard Stoll was one of the owners that took ownership of RD1, Registered Distillery Number 1, in the 1900s. And so, the Stoll family is still around Lexington, and they reach out all the time on social media. So we're kind of thinking we would love to get all of those folks that were descendants or worked with the brand, and have them really be honored and coming into the distillery to have a special party and VIP location for that group.
Yeah. You already talked about Coach Stoops as an investor, and he's of course got a full-time job, and he's doing a great job, by the way. So he's turned into a football program that wasn't thought of much into one that's nationally recognized now, which is really a cool thing. And I know he's got to keep very busy with that, but it looks like you guys are using him a little bit, and so he does have an active role in the company, I assume. Besides, he's done a little promotional stuff. And tell us a little bit about what he does behind the scenes.
Well, this is what I'll say. This is one of Mark Stoops' companies. He's a majority owner. But number one, he is a football coach of a Division I school. And so during football season, we're hands off. Coach says, don't
that's
call
like a 24-hour day job, basically. Yeah,
absolutely. But, in the off season, he is very much engaged in the brand. And we've done tastings and bottle signings in Louisville and in Lexington. And, thank you guys so much for your support. Folks come out to those. There you go. There's Neil's holding up one with Coach's signature. So during the off season, I'll let you guys know, we're going to do a coach caravan, and we're going to get an RV. We're going to go from Ashland, Kentucky, all the way to Paducah and every area in between the state. And we're just going to, probably several days during each month, we'll hit a market and make sure that we have Coach out there meeting. He wants to be engaged in the brand. He's a huge bourbon fan. He's got a great palate. A little tip here is that Coach loves Eagle Rare. So if you want to get on Coach's good side, send him a bottle of Eagle Rare, and I'm sure he'd be forever indebted to you.
That's a pretty solid choice. So yeah, I like Eagle Rare myself. Just recently, the KDA, Kentucky Distillers Association, sent out a press release announcing RD1 Spirits, the parent company of William Tarr, as the 47th member of the KDA. So congratulations on that. And what does that mean to you and the company being in the KDA?
It's huge. I mean, when you think of bourbon tourism, the people that are coming from out of state, they're looking to see what can we do in the state of Kentucky when we're doing the bourbon tour. And so being a part of that organization is huge. And also with bourbon assignments, I mean, the opportunity to go to some of these places. And, I've got that book, Steve. And I got to say, I've already awarded myself a lot of points. Excellent. I just got to get down to Key West.
Yes. Coming to Key West. To Key West. But so huge though being in the KDA, and they just set the standard for really any trade organization. So it's so great they're in the bourbon industry and really elevate Kentucky bourbon. So it's a cool thing.
Yeah, and let me expand on that too. One of the other things that, again, I think it's surreal that is associated with this brand is that one of the partners of William Tarr was Thomas Megavin. And if anybody knows Thomas Megavin, he became an instant millionaire overnight because of the way that the federal government changed taxes on barrels. And so what happened, he was a partner with William Tarr. He was the very first Kentucky Distillers Association president, founded in 1880. He was the first KDA president.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of unique. It's part of the brand that we're really proud to resurrect and tell that history. We got a rich history. Everybody loves a good bourbon story, but it's what's in that bottle that's going to bring that consumer back to you.
Yep. So I think most bourbon fans do a little bit of this. I mean, you can see some stuff behind me. If you drink bourbon, you get into the history, you end up picking up, some things. You go to a flea market or antique mall and you see something, you pick that up. So Barry, my question for you is kind of twofold. Number one, do you collect a little bit of bourbon stuff too? And number two, is there any William Tarr or Ashland Distillery stuff that's out there?
Yeah, right off of the bat,
Nice.
I got this. This is a sealed bottle. It's a pre-prohibition
Oh, that's
bottle
so
of Old
cool.
Tarr.
Yeah.
And so I got this bottle from a lead at Justin's House of Bourbon. I think we all know
Sure.
those guys at Justin's House of Bourbon. And I told them I met with them and I said, hey, if you can find any kind of memorabilia, a bottle, that would be great. And it wasn't the next day that they must have had this guy on speed dial or something because they called me and said, you're not going to believe this, but we got the sealed bottle of Old Tarr. And I bought that up pretty quickly. That's the most expensive bottle that I've ever purchased.
Right. But worth every penny. I mean, it's just something so unique and cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your product line, what you got on the shelves now, and then what we might be seeing in the future.
Yeah. So the Kentucky Straight Bourbon, the 12-year, it's a super limited release, and there's only 100 bottles left in distribution right now. It's a 12-year small batch, 120 proof. The distillery has about 350 of the single barrels. Those are at cask proof at anywhere from 121 to 122 proof. We've got those for sale, but very limited amount. We've got the Manchester Reserve. It's a Kentucky Straight Bourbon, and it's a blend of an 8-year rye and 7-year bourbon. The rye mash bill, 51% rye, 37 corn, 12% malted barley, which is blended with a bourbon that's 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. This one it's a multiple gold medal, a winner at 114 proof. And when you talk about, there it is. I love that proof. The 114. It was described in one of the competitions as all bourbon on the outside with a rye kicker in the middle. And if you taste that, it's sweet on the front. You get a lot of the corn, and then you get a little confusion on that mid palate. It can take you in a lot of different directions, but it finishes with that barrel char, so you get a nice, beautiful toasted creme brulee, vanilla, caramel. It's a very beautiful, moderate finish. And I think that's why it won so many awards already. We did proof that down to a 96.4 proof. So the same blend, only proof down to 96.4 in we've shown this already in a nice blue and white, UK blue and white colors. But it's 96.4 proof. And it's the profile, as you all can imagine, which we all know that proof has a dramatic impact on flavor. It is delicious with the rye singing on the palate. You get that rye spice. I get a pepper. I get some very unique mid palate flavor notes, but it finishes fruity. And you can get anything from apricot to blackberry. It works great in a old fashioned. The rye really holds up. So delicious at that level. And if I can be transparent, it's fortunate that we had really good bourbon consultants that help us to create the best brand. But you can get really tunnel vision when one person's kind of making the decisions. And we came out with that 114 proof, which is great for all of us. I think for the most of us, we want to taste our whiskey at barrel strength and then proof it down ourselves, but the majority, the 99% people that are, drinking spirits are more naive and they need an approachable proof level. So that 96.4 is just exploded off of the shelf just because we're reaching a lot more of the right consumer at that proof.
Barry, I think that most small businesses that are starting, really, it's kind of almost day to day, and can we make it till next month, and maybe you're looking out a year into the future, but this is a legacy industry. And have you guys started putting together things like 5 and 10 year, or some even a 30-year plan, anything like that?
Yeah, one of the first things that Key Investments did was that we're not in it to flip this. We're not in it to sell the brand. We're in it to build the brand, and they've committed significant leadership and financial resources. We have a liquid strategy that is going out right now, out 5 years and beyond.
Yeah.
And so we're not looking for people to come in and give us investment money. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is make sure that we're listening to the experts, that we're creating an opportunity for us to continue to be successful. If you think about RD1, within that portfolio, through the years of 1865 all the way to when Prohibition shuttered the distillery, there were brands associated with labels that are associated with that brand, which were Old Tarr, Oat Elk, Bond and Lillard, Bella Marion, E.L. Miles, New Hope, Bourbon Deluxe. This is one that I just found out that was a part of that brand, and it was I don't know if you can see that very well, but it was the William Tarr Distillery that produced that out of Louisville when the Whiskey Trust took over the brand after it was sold in 1907. So when you think about that, we have the opportunity then not only to reveal one particular brand associated with that label. Now, Bond and Lillard, not available. Wild Turkey has that label. Bourbon Deluxe is owned by Jim Beam. So not every label that was associated would we be able to resurrect it. But the most important one, I feel, is the very first one, which was Ashland. Ashland was key because it was the very first federally registered distillery. After Civil War, the federal government had to raise tax revenues. And so within the state of Kentucky, it was divided up into 7 different districts, and each district had an RD1, RD2, RD3. Well, it just so happens that Lexington owns RD1, which was the Ashland Distillery. And that label that is available. There is some trouble with you think about there's an Ashland Seltzer that's out there that we're going to have to get a coexisting agreement, but there's an opportunity for us to utilize the Ashland label, which I think is really key to the brand in Lexington. Lexington really needs an anchor tenant. James Pepper is historic, and Amir's doing a terrific job with distribution, but we need to make sure that we're bringing that bourbon tourism and keeping them in Lexington when they come in and looking for things to do. So we want to be one of many different Lexington distilleries that's part of that partnership to work together and build the brand so that we keep people in Lexington. And then we like to say, we'd like the tour to start or end in Lexington. That would be really cool for us.
Very cool. All right, last question. I don't know if you saw this, but Bud Light is releasing an eggnog flavored seltzer. What are your thoughts on this? Is this a sign of the apocalypse right here?
Well, just say no to that. I can't tell you. I love eggnog. And
me too. I love eggnog. It's but
not a seltzer.
Right, not a seltzer. It's all the wrong. Everything about it's wrong. All right, McNew, you like eggnog now because you've had it at Bourbon's Bistro. You said it was good. Are you going to try this Bud Light seltzer? Eggnog. What about the seltzer? You like seltzers? You like eggnog now?
This is like seltzer good, eggnog probably good in some worlds. Not good together. Not everything needs to be. Oh no,
that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna get some of this at some point to do something with. There's gonna be some sort of show or something like that. I don't know. We gotta do it. McNew's got to drink one with us.
I did not agree to this.
We're all gonna do it.
First off, you need to give yourself that room to enjoy it if it's good, because the reality is they probably did a little research before they just threw it in a can and put it out. Because the other day, I was at a dinner party and someone for dessert served Kraft macaroni and cheese ice cream. And And
don't tell me that's good.
And I was just like,
Come on.
a spoonful. I don't need an entire thing. But, the whole little thing came out. And I ate every last bite. The first bite was dubious, but it grew on me. And I'm saying the same thing might happen with an eggnog seltzer.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to try. We're going to try it, but I'm not going in feeling positive. But we are always open to that. We always let taste be the final call on all of these things. So we're going to try it. We are. Barry, we'll bring you and Colin both in on that too. So
nice. Count me in.
It'll be fun. All right, Barry, you got time to stick around with us, man? We do like a Q&A afterwards. We'll give you time at the end of the show too to plug anything you'd like, tell social media and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll just be sitting down here on the couch sipping on my whiskey.
Yeah, just like on the old Tonight Show, just move over a little bit and sip on your whiskey. All right, let's hear it for Barry Brinigar. Everybody, great job, Barry. Very great. All right, McNew, what we'll do next, we'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking to Colin Blake. We'll do that in just a few. Hello, this is Steve Akeley of the ABV Network. Let's talk about the people who make this show happen. First up is Leatherwood Distillery in Pleasant View, Tennessee. Company founder Andy Lang started distilling as a hobby while serving his country as an elite Green Beret. Andy distilled all over the world during his time in the military and brought this passion back to him in the U.S. when he returned home. A visit to Leatherwood combines Andy Lang's unique distilled spirits and a museum of artifacts from his time serving the U.S. Share a drink with a fallen soldier at their bar where you can grab an acrylic bio off the wall that celebrates the individuals who gave the ultimate sacrifice to protect his or her country. They will also ship their distilled spirits directly to you, so check them out at leatherwooddistillery.com. We are also sponsored by Moonshine University. This longtime partner for the ABV Network helps educate individuals looking to get into the distilled spirits business, service industry employees looking to expand their knowledge, and individuals simply wanting to know more about the process and history of the spirits industry. In 2017, I completed my Executive Bourbon Steward certification at Moonshine University, and it's something I continuously draw upon and connect with fellow graduates. Check out their full listing of classes, including Executive Bourbon Steward certification, production classes, and more at moonshineuniversity.com. Okay, let's talk about Neely Family Distillery. In 2018, I met Royce Neely at an industry event. He started appearing on our shows, and we became friends during my frequent visits to Kentucky. Today, he's leading the way for young distillers making their mark on the bourbon industry. A visit to Neely Family Distillery combines family history, a look at what makes their products unique, and of course a tasting through their whiskeys, moonshines, and creams. Check them out at neelyfamilydistillery.com and visit them in Sparta, Kentucky. All right, back to the show.
This is Freddie Mills, and you're listening to the Bourbon Daily.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and I get to now introduce our second guest. Our next guest has impacted thousands of bourbon fans. It's amazing to think about the reach of this, because they do so many different classes for hospitality workers, distillery owners, all through Moonshine University. He brings a deep sense of learning to his classes, but always keeps it interesting and fun as well. So it really is a cool experience going there and being part of Moonshine University and the courses that they offer there. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Colin Blake. Hey, Colin. How you doing, buddy?
Hey. Thanks for having me on. This is great. I'm doing
absolutely
very, very, very well. Spectacular. It's Halloween season. How could it not be?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, McNew was crazy about this. When did the first decoration go up for Halloween, McNew, at your house?
So I don't do Halloween till October 1st, but I have.
Oh, okay. Your fall. Yeah. I count in my world. Pumpkins count as Halloween decorations. When do those go up?
No, pumpkins go up Labor Day. It's fall. It's
no,
September.
That's too early. That's too early. Don't you think, Colin, for a pumpkin?
I mean,
no. We started putting stuff up in late September.
Okay. So. Okay. Well, she was early September, so okay. But Colin says it's okay, so I guess it's okay. All right.
Early September.
Colin, we always like to start off with kind of an interesting question, kind of get to know you a little bit better question. And certainly I know this, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but I don't know if everybody in the audience has heard that you spent some time living in St. Louis, which is my hometown. So I always like to talk about that. So tell us a little bit about your time here. What kind of things did you love while you were here? And is there anything that you missed now that you're gone?
You know, St. Louis was many years ago for me. So we're talking. I was there from '97 to '99, and I was really looking for a place in the country where I could live directly between two St. Charles. I wanted one north of me, I wanted one south of me, and I wanted to be right in the middle, which just happened to be St. Louis. But I went there to
couple of Troy's, and we got some other cities like that. A couple of O'Fallons, around both sides.
Oh, and of course O'Fallon, and I also wanted a city that was divided by a river and in two different states.
Yes.
So it was that or Kansas City or the Twin Cities. So very small list, but St. Louis ultimately won out. I went to Webster University. Originally, I was there studying music with Bill Porter, kind of a legendary producer, Elvis, the Memphis Mafia. Turns out, spectacular producer, wildly mediocre teacher. So I ended up actually getting into photography. I met a teacher there, Tom Barkman, who just absolutely spectacular teacher. Got me into photography, which ultimately got me into a career that took me away from St. Louis before I finished my degree at Webster University. But there's several things. First off, I'm never popular with people from St. Louis because the one thing I don't miss, and I'm glad I'm very far away from it, is Emo's Pizza.
Now, wait a second here. The question was, what did you love and what do you miss? This is you're going off track.
Yeah, I'm going off script. Steve, this is not your first interview with me. You're lucky that I'm even talking about St. Louis at this point. Ted Drew's. Missed the heck out of Ted Drew's. I lived in pretty close to Webster Groves, and Ted Drew's was a half mile from my apartment that I lived in. So I was there constantly. And St. Louis in the late '90s had a great music scene. So I really do miss.
We've had this happen before. This is where McNew does her comedy routine. I'm
going to tell you, I do not have a comedy.
The alcohol.
You froze up there for a second. You froze up for a second. You're back now. So yeah.
Okay. So I just missed the music there, and the people. It's just such a great town with a great history. And you just, as a teenager, you just slowly discover stuff because the internet was young in the late '90s.
Right.
But once you start discovering like City Museum and the zoo and the botanical gardens and all like the cool historic shops. Magic House. I mean, there's just so much cool stuff happening in St. Louis, and every time I go back to visit friends, it's just getting better and better.
Yeah.
But do you know what's not getting better? Emo's Pizza.
Next time you're in town, I need to take you to the original Emo's, and it's better there. Maybe you just haven't had the right Emo's. So.
Is the cheese still liquid at room temperature before it's cooked?
Maybe.
Cool.
Maybe.
Cool.
Yeah. You're gonna like it though. I just get the feeling here. Hey, if I have to drink an eggnog seltzer and keep an open mind, you have to keep an open mind about that Emo's Pizza.
Sure. Yeah. See? Except one of our minds has already experienced the thing that we're going to be trying. But okay, sure.
All right. So take us a little back into company history here. How did Moonshine University get started? How did this thing come together?
Yeah. So Moonshine University is the sister company to Flavorman, which is a beverage development company. And Dave Defoe is kind of the mastermind behind both. He is the Flavorman himself, which he hates when I say that. So of course it becomes part of my script.
Sure.
But he is not only a super taster and just kind of like amazing, through his whole career in the beverage industry. He's kind of a visionary. So he sees things coming down the road. And he was giving a talk at the American Distilling Institute, I believe in 2010, when it was a much smaller conference in Oregon on flavored vodkas. And he just kind of realized like, oh, this is about to explode. And And he had this building right next to Flavorman, and he came back from that conference and was just like, we're going to open a distillery. And everybody was super excited, like, awesome, what are we going to make? And he goes, nothing. We're just like, you need to say more words. He ultimately was like, we're going to open a school. Like, there's no place in the country for people to learn how to open distilleries and run distilleries. And it's about to be a really big thing here in America. And lo and behold, it took us 2 years to open the doors there, because it's a distillery and nothing moves fast when you're opening a distillery. And when we opened our doors, it was gangbusters. First class sold out, and pretty much, you know, as we just kept opening up more classes and offering more classes, they all just kind of did well. And now we're a small team of 4 full-time people dedicated to McNew, and we can barely keep up with everything that's going on. So we've actually experienced really good growth, and more than anything, it's because we get to be part, the neutral, the Switzerland of the distilling industry. We get to be everyone's friend because we don't have a brand or a product. So we really do get to be a hub for everybody and just get to be everyone's friend. So it's like the greatest place to be in the distilling industry.
That's very cool. And yeah, what a neat story too. And, you know, the benefit of hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, well, absolutely. You needed to start a school to teach people how to do that. But when you're the first one, when you're the one that comes up with the idea and implementing it, it's a wholly, totally different thing. And yeah, very, very cool stuff. And I'm glad to hear the success right out of the gate. So how do they find you then? How do you get involved, Colin?
So it was actually like pure luck. I always like to say that I have a very Kramer-esque life, and I just kind of fall backwards into like cool things and lucky situations. But Dave, a lot of people don't know the origin story of like how the staff got chosen for Moonshine University. I think this might be the first time that anyone's actually talked about it. Dave actually ran a contest to see who wanted to be in the industry. So he hid in a whole bunch of beverages that were going out to market golden tickets. So people around the world were just snatching up beverages and ripping off labels, hoping to find.
I was excited about this answer. He had me on the edge of my seat, and then that.
Well, it's a far less origin story for myself. I moved back here to Louisville from Los Angeles. I was working in the film and TV industry for a better part of a decade. And when I moved back here, there's not so much of a TV and film industry in Louisville. So ended up meeting Dave and just did a bunch of creative work for him. Started as writing some code for some custom programs that they needed, then doing some copywriting, then doing some graphic design, became Flavorman's creative director. And then that was right around the time that Moonshine University was opening its doors. And our first distiller was being trained by Pete Kamer, just to learn the equipment and kind of learn how to distill and all that. And, I heard that was going on, and it was a 2-week training, and I just kept sneaking over there every single day for 2 weeks. And Dave never told me to come back, and fell in love with the science and methodology and just everything that happens in the distillery. I don't like working in a distillery very begrudgingly when Clay needs me to actually do something in the distillery. I'm never happy about it because I would rather stay in my very nice temperature controlled classroom and point through the window at equipment and get to tell my funny jokes while people are comfortable. And I get to talk about, science and oxidation and all those things that I like to beat into people's heads when they come and get forced to listen to me talk for 8 hours straight.
So I think one of the toughest things has to be with the job, maybe the toughest, is, curriculum development, because you can run through things as much as yourself, practice them, but really the only true practice you can get is when you have actual students in there. So tell us a little bit about, curriculum development and what you have to do for that. And, when you go and you take a class, it runs so smoothly, you don't even think about it. And that's probably the biggest compliment that you can get is the fact that everything goes off, so great, and you just feel excellent about the class. But that doesn't happen by accident. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So tell us about it.
Oh yeah. There can be a fire in the back room, but as long as the smoke doesn't make it up front, everything's fine, right?
Right.
Yeah. So class development is really interesting. We're really big believers of advisory panels for new large programs. So the 6-day distiller course, which actually started as a 5-day distiller course, we put together a pretty big group of people from various parts of the industry, from consultants to distributors to various aspects of the distilling world, and worked over the course of a few months just being like, what do people actually need to know to get into this industry, and how do we piece all these different things together so that people just understand what they're getting into and they're set up for success. Very quickly, we realized that 5 days was enough to really kind of give a topical outline overview of the industry, because, we could spend years in there and you would still not know every aspect. But advisory panels are a big thing. And then we do feedback forms at the end of every class and actually take advice from students if we get good feedback. And then also, the team is very good at just judging what's happening, how good presenters are, if the topics are right, if the topics are in the right order, because we're on Sunday starting I believe our 35th 6-day distiller course. And there's not 2 classes that have been the same. We make changes for every single class. So it is a constant development. And I think that always people feel that we're always attuned to it. We're always trying to make it the best class it is. And then workshops are very much just the team at Moonshine University working with whichever presenter is going to be doing that workshop. And we kind of just really think of the dream classes we would like to sit in on, because not everything we do is altruism. Sometimes we're just like, man, it would be cool to know more about what happens in the barrel when it's aging, and we're just like, let's do a class on that. That way we get to sit on it for free.
Right.
And a lot of ideas come from that. And then when we put the Stave and Thief Society together, that was very much an advisory panel that helped us kind of look at topics and then and put that program together. And then there were things I was just bullheaded about, and from day one I was like, I'm going to force this into the curriculum, and most of it is the flights that get served during that, because oxidation, like I feel like that's Bernie Lubbers is bottled and bond, and Colin Blake is all about oxidation. That is just like what I think is really important. People need to know more about. So I wanted to have a flight for that. I wanted people to understand how making a consistent product is soul crushing, how every barrel tastes different. And it's like, whoever can put those barrels together to make the same product over and over again is my hero. So there are things like that I wanted to be in there, but everything develops over time. Stave and Thief now is pretty much dialed in. It's probably likely not going to change very much for the bourbon class. And I believe it was in September, the end of September, I taught my 100th class of Stave and Thief Society. Yeah. Wow. So that was a big deal for me. And the team was very, very kind and helping celebrate that. But that was really kind of, after 100 classes, you kind of have the opportunity to really dial everything in.
Yeah. So you've been an educator long enough now to see, individuals that have gone through the class, kind of the starting point for many individuals that are just getting going. And now it's enough time's passed where they've been able to open up distilleries or get in the business or whatever it is they wanted to do with the bourbon industry. And they had enough time to experience success. And what does that mean to you when someone comes back to you and says, hey, thank you. You got me started there? Because we've had people on our shows that have talked about how important, the team there is and the education that you guys offer for their bourbon journeys.
I mean, I think it's amazing that, when you start and that's the goal and you want everyone to be successful and, you're trying to tee everybody up for success and, also save them as much money as possible on that journey to success. It's great. And I mean, it's very humbling and it's amazing, but again, it's maybe not the, just these nonstop series of epiphanies and crying while you're holding each other, because it's a long journey and we get to be helpful along the way, which also, makes a lot of these people our friends. So it's just like feeling good that your friends are doing well. And we just kind of, again, get to be this like little center seed for so many people as they grow and do amazing things. And it's awesome that we're part of origin stories. I think that is the best thing, is just that people look back and that the time and money they spent with us was worthwhile, and a positive thing. And it helped them become part of this awesome community of, distillers and the spirits industry as a whole.
Yeah. So, what is a class that you've thought about, whether it's been something that a student's recommended or you've come up to it with yourself, or maybe the team is like, oh, this is something we'd like to learn about, because you talked about that's how you do things sometimes. What's one of these classes that you've haven't quite been able to put together just yet, but it's something that you'd like to do at some point?
Yeah. And I just took a few classes off the shelf and I'm going to try them again. A business of distilling. We get asked about it all the time. It's the unsexy part, the paperwork part, the compliance part, putting together your liquid strategy, forecasting, all that really important stuff. But every time I put it on the schedule, we cancel it because one or two people sign up and that just doesn't make it worthwhile. So I'm taking that off the shelf, and come hell or high water, I'm going to make it work this year. And I might run it even if only two people sign up, and hopefully it'll gain momentum. There's one that I am working on right now that is a deconstructed class from a lot of failed classes but I'm lumping it together as the science of distillation, where we're going to get super, super deep, into every aspect of distillation, getting into, really the long oxidative cycle of all the different things, putting together a QC program and a QA program, barrel selecting and, flavor profiling, and literally getting into deep chemistry of it. And when I'm working with presenters on that, the chemistry is so deep that I nod like I know what they're talking about. I'm like, those words are big enough that sounds like that's a real thing. So yeah, let's include that in the class. So those are happening. And we're starting a really cool class this year, which a student from our last 6-day distiller course has a lot of really successful off-premise, bottle shops. And he also does shipping distribution for brands, and he's going to do a 3-day super deep dive step-by-step class on how to open an off-premise spirit shop. So we're also kind of branching into the other tiers as well this year, which I'm really excited about. Yeah,
that is really cool. Congrats on that. That will have a lot of interest, I'm sure. So very, very cool.
I hope so.
Yeah, I've been in this class with you before, and people throw literally everything at you. I'm talking about laws and regulations, production, history, brands, people, everything comes in, science. It all gets thrown at you. So how do you continue to educate yourself so you are the best instructor you can be at the front of that room, because that everything's going to be tossed your way? There's going to be a question about this or that, and you have to be able to answer a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you have to be pretty well-rounded. But really, I only have to be well-rounded enough to answer to a certain level, and then after that, I am surrounded by the greatest team of industry experts ever, and I have zero qualms about saying I don't know. So a lot of what I ultimately have to have conversations about and research or look up are questions I get in class where I'm like,
you're humble about that, Colin. But I was in this class, and I never heard you say that one time. I mean, you knew all.
Oh, I guarantee I did. I don't think I've ever had a class. Yeah, I don't think I've ever taught a class where I got through the entire class without being asked a question I didn't know.
Well, that was me. I asked a couple that didn't know, but I didn't know.
Yeah. But there's that. And then honestly, it's just like any other industry. If you love your industry and want to be a part of it, there's a daily part of your life about reading industry news. Right. So Mark Brown's industry newsletter, which if you're in the spirits industry, you get to read that. That's one of the greatest collections there. There's a few other newsletters. Being a member of Discus, you get a lot of information, having to keep up with the TTB newsletters, which, they're so exciting. But those. Really important stuff. They get the important things get summed up in other things, but we get into some pretty technical details, and people always ask us those weird gray area questions, and those always get answered in the clarification letters in the TTB. So it's really just keeping up with the industry as a whole. And we're always shopping for new presenters and new topics and just meeting new people in the industry, talking with them. You just learn so much from those discussions. And again, we're very fortunate to be, if we ever do want to know about something, we get to form a class around it and then get to take the class that we're putting on. So that's very helpful as well.
Yeah. So you got your finger on the pulse at all times, because you're doing all that research you just talked about. You're working with people in the industry all the time, whether it's people that are helping you teach classes or people that are going through the classes. So as you look at that, what are some trends you think that are going on right now, just based on kind of just a feel for it of all the things that we have already talked about?
Sure. So really, the thing that we see that's probably going to be like the next really big thing is eggnog hard seltzer. I mean, it's just going to be huge.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a huge trend that's coming. Eggnog seltzer.
It's really interesting, but I mean, honestly, as much as we are very deep in the industry and talk to a lot of people in the industry, we're very reactive as far as trends. The other side of the company, Flavor Man, they know what's coming down the line, because whenever there's, a kind of a ground change of types of products they're getting, like they could have told you about 5 years ago, RTDs and canned cocktails were going to be huge because people stopped making energy drinks. Tons of people started to do canned cocktails, and they can actually look, are they ordering flavor? Are they actually going to production? And their flavors are growing, so this is becoming a bigger trend. So that is, and RTDs are still growing really, really fast. But one trend that we are seeing more interest in and doing more development work with people is Amaros are becoming really interesting. And as that, the cocktail world keeps growing and growing, Amaros are a big part of that. So I think we're going to start seeing more botanical based spirits, along with gin continuing to grow as a category, because there's a lot more really good gins coming out to the market.
Okay. So this is just an interesting question. The second half of my career, I was in sales in my corporate job for probably the first half of the 20 years I was there. Second half, I was a sales trainer, and I put together curriculums and things like that. And, mostly they went pretty well. I was amazed at, how good they actually went. But there's this one time this was just like a breakout session at our yearly conference. And I had to do this presentation, and it's about some new sales tools that we had developed and things like that, and to teach salespeople how to be better salespeople. And out of the audience, and I was going fine until I locked eyes with a guy by the name of Jeff Ankenbar, who was like the best salesperson in the whole system. We had like 3,000 salespeople. He was number one, with the highest sales every year after year after. And when I saw him in that class, I got to admit, I freaked out at the front of that room, because I'm like, I don't know more than this guy. Why is he in my class to learn from me? He knows why don't we bring him up here? And this argument's going on in my head as I'm trying to run through these slides and present, and it was a train wreck. Now, do you everybody comes to your classes, master distillers, people have been doing this for years and years and years. Have you ever had a moment where you've looked out in the audience and been like, wait a second, this person could really come up to the front and teach this class, but they're in that class being educated? And what's that like if you've done that?
Yeah. And I mean, no one's really going to believe this, but the person who actually did the exact same thing to me was Jeff Ankabar. I mean, I couldn't believe it when he was in my class.
Doing a little hobby distilling.
He's not only the best in moving, he's the best in shaking. He is the best mover and shaker out there. No, so there was one time. So Bardstown Bourbon Company is a big supporter of Stave and Thief Society. They send, I mean, you know, mark on down, like they send everyone through that. And I remember the first time back when they were just opening their doors, and they brought their whole team in. We had like 30, 40 of their team in, and Steve Nally came in with them. So, you know, Hall of Famer, he's a Bourbon Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he sat front and center. And so, you know, I teach the class, I tell my jokes, you know, the class is going very well, but every time I kind of look at Steve, just kind of the stoic Steve face, I'm just like, oh man, like he hates this. I'm sure like he's going to go back and correct things I say and whatnot. But you know, like I'm very much come from an arts background. So I was in performance mode. So, you know, I stuck to it. And then at the end of class, Steve comes up to me and shakes my hand, and he was just like, Colin, you know what? Even I learned a thing or two in that class. That was great. Thank you so much. And I was like, Steve, could you fucking smiled once through that entire class? And I mean, that was probably the hardest. And I've had a lot of people like in 1 or 2 hour sections I've taught of other classes. But as far as, you know, the Stave and Thief Society, there's been a lot of really impressive people that come through, but Steve Nally sitting front and center really was just like, oh man,
right.
This is,
I get it. Yeah. Anytime you're dealing, you know, with people in general, and you've got them in, you know, kind of out of their element in a classroom, there's got to be some funny things, stories that have happened along the way. Is there anything that stands out that you can share?
Yeah. So that's an interesting question, because the things that end up being funny, like that you actually remember over time, and like tell the story over and over again, were the worst things that could possibly happen in the moment. Right. And there's a couple different things, but the one thing that, I mean, that happened for a class was, so when our previous distiller, Tyler Gomez, who's at Jim Beam now, left the company, rightfully so, took a fantastic position. And we hired Clay Smith, our current distiller, who is spectacular. But there was this 6-week gap where we didn't have a distiller. And being that I have been trained, I know how to distill and have begrudgingly worked in the distillery before I was the distiller. And we were doing a distilling operations class, which is a really high-end, it's the only class we have with a prerequisite in order to take it. And it's taught by Pete Kamer and Randy Allender, who are like the top consultants in the industry. They're like the greatest supporters of the craft distilling industry. You can't stump them. They know absolutely everything. And so they're in and out of the distillery, and I've got to go in there, and I'm doing, you know, the cook, the run, everything. And we're locking up for the night, and I was cooling down the mash so I could dump it in the morning. And Randy came up to me, and he's just like, everything shut off in there? I'm like, yep, Randy, everything's good. I popped the top on the manway on the still. I've got the agitator on. I'm just going to let it cool down overnight, and I'll dump that in the morning when I get in here. And they're like, oh, great. Come back in the morning, and there is rain coming down in the distillery. It's like a rainforest. And mash is spread over every surface in the entire distillery. And I just walk in there and then just start cleaning, right? I'm just like, I don't know what the hell happened. And then Pete and Randy get there, and they're just like, what the hell? And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I did everything. I turned the steam off. Like, I don't know what's happening. And then Randy was like, well, did you turn off the bypass valve? And I was like, what bypass valve? He's like, the one we installed last year. I was like, Randy, I haven't worked in the distillery in 5 years. And he's just like, oh, yeah. Probably not going to miss that bypass valve the next time. And I mean, I had to run home and get a pressure washer and they were in class and they were supposed to be in the distillery, and I shoved myself in the still with a pressure washer and was just like getting doused as I was like trying to cut this scorched mash off the still. And the class still went off fantastic. And even when the greatest disaster happens in a class at Moonshine University, it's just the opportunity to show you like,
it's real.
You know,
it's
you
real,
deal
right?
with what happens. You move forward, you adjust, and what we say is true. 90% of distilling is cleaning.
Yeah. All right. Last question. And you've talked a little bit about Halloween and love for it, but what's it like in the Blake household? What's Halloween like? Lots of decorations, candy. What do we got going on?
It is now. So we're slowly gearing up. My wife and I are rather austere people. A lot of clean surfaces, meticulous. Everything's put away at the end of the night. Not big on decorations, but then we had a child. So we have a 3-year-old. So we're slowly every year ramping up. There's more and more and more. And this year is the first time he gets to do like Halloween, right? He had 2 COVID Halloweens, which was just horrible. So this kid, I mean, he's got a Venom costume, even though he's never seen Venom. I'm not exactly sure why he latched onto Venom so much. And like, we've got decorations, we're going to take him out. So super excited because this is the first time we actually get to take our dude out and experience Halloween. And he's never really, he's young. He's generally asleep before the sun goes down. So it's going to be his first time kind of being out and playing at night and dressed up. So he's just going to lose his mind. So we're very excited about this.
Heck yeah. That's great.
Excited.
Yeah. Really. That'll be very fun. You've got quite a few fun years coming up. So yeah, Halloween is a good one.
Good.
Okay. Well, Colin, thanks so much for joining us. Now let's hear it for Colin Blake, everybody. Great job. Colin, anything you want to share social media wise? I know you're not big into that yourself, but company wise and websites, any stuff like that.
Absolutely. Check out moonshineuniversity.com and staveandthief.com. That has all of our upcoming classes. It's got great articles and blogs and videos if you just want to read more about the industry. And it has links to all of our social media, which also has a lot of good shares, not only about what we're doing, but what's happening in the industry and just interesting stuff we find.
Very cool. Barry, how about you?
You can find William Tarr at William Tarr Distillery on Facebook. We're undergoing a little bit of rebranding. So our Instagram page is RD1 Spirits. And hopefully when we get the proper paperwork to Facebook, it'll be RD1 Spirits as well.
Excellent. All right, McNew, how about you? Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at McNew ABV.
All right. For me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akeley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakeley.com. The important website, though, is abvnetwork.com. Check it out because everything that we do is out there. We put all of our podcasts are out there, all of our blogs, our newsletters. And of course, we've got the shop out there. If you want to get involved and take a look at the various packages we got to help fund our new movie, that's out there. Bourbon Assignments is out there right on the main page. So check us out at abvnetwork.com. Very nice. McNew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I'd like to remind the audience to please give us a 5-star review. That includes comments. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And if you like what we're doing, we ask that you please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/the ABV Network.
All right. Great job today, McNew. For our audience, we'll have a brand new show for you tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Until then, take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Peace. Before we finish the show, let's talk about some great companies that support the ABV network. First up is Moonshine Still Pro. Moonshine Still Pro has a full line of products to help the home distiller. Whether you want to experiment on the stove in your kitchen or you're looking for a bigger setup in your backyard, owner Russell Creed and his team can help. They have multiple still offerings, accessories, and even grain from their partners at Goldstone Mill to assist you in making whiskey on par with your favorite distillery. They can also help you with some fabricated parts you probably can't make yourself if you are attempting a DIY still project. Learn more or order your still or parts at moonshinestillpro.com. Another friend of ours is the Goldstein family at Goldstone Mill. The Goldsteins offer a variety of heritage and heirloom grains to make the finest whiskeys in the world. Plus, they are more than just a grain company. They are truly consultants to make sure the grains they are providing to you or your business meet your highest expectations. Additionally, they work with mills around the country, ensuring shipping is as low as possible for their customers. If you're a distillery, brewery, or even doing this at home, Goldstone can assist you. Check them out at goldstonemill.com, call them at 217-254-6613, or check in via email at hello@goldstonemill.com. Last but not least, at the top of the show, I mentioned investment opportunities at the new liquor store concept, the ABV Barrel Shop, being launched in 2022 by myself, Jim Fosnot, and Scott Creighton. We are crowdfunding some of the capital needed to open the store. Not only does it offer a return on your investment, but a lifetime of status and benefits at the store. Of course, this investment is a loan and involves a high degree of risk, which may not be suitable for all persons. Prospective investors should carefully evaluate the risk and merits of an investment, should confer with their own legal and financial advisors, and should be able to bear the risk of the loss of their investment before considering the investment described herein. If you would like more information, contact us via the under construction website at abvbarrelshop.com and fill out the form.
The Bourbon Daily is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.